Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on this Reaction Monday. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. A shortened show today as the Predators are on the ice to start off their 4-game Canadian road trip this afternoon. Right at noon, puck drop, so 11 a.m. pregame coverage. So we are with you for the next 2 hours. We'll lead you right into Preds pregame coverage again, starting their 4-game road trip up in Canada. Canadian Thanksgiving, apparently, today. So a full slate of NHL games, and they're up there taking on the Ottawa Senators, first of a back-to-back, I believe, taking on Toronto tomorrow night. Parker, how's it going? How's your weekend?
Again, it was a great weekend full of college football.
Yep.
And I was on high, went to the Tennessee game, took my wife to her very first Tennessee game.
Wow.
So we got to experience that with her. And she has now been baptized into SEC culture. She's a diehard college football fan, just like myself now.
I love it.
I was on cloud 9. And then what happened?
And then you have to watch the Tennessee Titans play football.
Then I had to watch the Titans.
Yeah.
And we're back talking about the same things.
We are. And we talked about last week, kind of the main overarching question that we asked all 5 shows. Was it a fluke what they pulled off in the fourth quarter? The Cardinals gave them all the opportunities, but the Titans took advantage of it. The offense showed some life. Was that a fluke, or was that something clicking for this team to finally have a competent offense? And we found out our answer yesterday. It was horrible on the offensive side of the ball. And there is absolutely nobody who is devoid of blame. I was talking to Ian while Robbie and Rexroad were on, and I think the only name that I can come up with who I can say I was actually impressed by their play on the offensive side of the ball yesterday was Tajay Spears. Like, I thought he played pretty well. There were a few plays where he made a move, made something out of nothing. But outside of that, there's not a single person on that offense that I look at and I'm like, yeah, they had a good game yesterday. It was bad all around. And we're going to talk about Cam Ward. He had a bad day yesterday. The offensive line took a huge step back. You're 1-5 and you were gift wrapped your only win. Now Brian Callahan is what, 4-19, 4-20, 4-19?
Yeah, 4-19.
4-19. He'll be 4-20 next week after taking on the Patriots. But I just got to start with, what were the coaches thinking with the offensive game plan? I don't understand how you can watch the fourth quarter of that Arizona game and see your young quarterback start to flourish, running tempo and taking the shots underneath while also being able to make the plays downfield. I know the Cardinals were playing soft zone, so it's not exactly going to be the same. But you saw the ingredients that it took to make Cam Ward successful last week against Arizona. And your first 5 play calls are run, screen. And it's not just the runs. Like, I understand down and distance affects whether you're going to run or pass. And, they had 3rd and 1 on that first drive. You would think, hey, Tony Pollard can get us 1 yard. They were wrong. But they came out in these obvious run formations with 3 tight ends, and they brought in Corey Levin as a fullback. And it's like you are telling the defense you're going to run, and then you're running it 3 straight times. You punt, you get the ball back, and you run back-to-back screens that sets you up in 3rd and 10. I don't understand why this offensive staff is so dedicated to the screen game that just does not work. Find another way to get the ball in Chimdike's hands. Don't throw a screen to Tyler Lockett ever. I don't understand. I really don't.
I think it was TD who said they ran 5 screens yesterday and didn't pick up a single first down. And the way the defense was playing for the Raiders yesterday, it made no sense. It doesn't take a genius. Like, I've never called a play in the NFL, but even I know that the defense that the Raiders were playing yesterday, bringing heavy pressure, you don't keep throwing screens, especially when it's not working.
Cam Ward was not good enough yesterday. But man, the early part of that game, I wanted to see him get in a rhythm. And he did make a nice throw after those back-to-back screen passes. He hit Calvin Ridley for 18 yards. And then the offense did absolutely nothing. I don't know if you saw this, Parker, the Titans' first 20 plays, do you know how many yards they had?
No.
27.
27 on how many plays?
20
again?
plays.
Gosh.
Their first 20 plays, they had 27 yards. Just abysmal. This is a Raiders team that was giving up 35 points per game over the last 3 weeks. That defense is not good. Like, Max Crosby is a great player, and man, he ate J.C. Latham's lunch late in that game on a sack. But like that Raiders defense as a whole should not have held you to 10 points. And really, it should have been 3. Like you pretty much scored that last one in garbage time, where the Raiders, they were just trying to make you churn clock. They didn't care if you scored. They just wanted to make sure that, they made it a 10-point game with 3.5 minutes left. It was way too late to make anything happen. And the Titans, they did nothing on offense all day long. And Cam Ward, the turnovers, if you want to put a blame pie for yesterday, like I've talked about some of these losses where Cam Ward obviously deserves a percentage of the blame for all of the losses. The quarterback always is going to. But I think yesterday is the one where you can look at and say, man, Cam Ward really cost them that game. It was 3-0 and you fumble at the goal line. And again, the offensive line gave him absolutely no help on that play. I mean, that he had the snap for about a second and a half before the guy was on top of him. But you got to protect the football. Like, the last thing that can happen there is you drop it. Give yourself a chance to punt and make them at least go 30 yards to get in field goal range, or 20 yards, instead of you got the ball on the 2-yard line and there's really not much you can do. It's just not good enough. And
Cam Ward was not great yesterday by any means, but it's just even the simple things are hard. Like even Kevin Zeitler, who you bring in on a 1-year deal. He was great last year for the Lions. He was great with the Ravens, and he couldn't stop a nosebleed yesterday. I mean, guys for the Raiders who I've never heard of were making plays yesterday and looking like all pro caliber players, and that's not good. And you mentioned at the top when we opened the show, Cam Ward is good at playing up tempo. He's good at playing fast. And the type of defense that the Raiders were running, they were running all these exotic blitzes trying to apply the pressure. Well, as a quarterback, you're taught to throw into that blitz, and you got to get the ball out hot. That is the key. You got to get it out hot. And Cam Ward, 1, wasn't doing that, but 2, the play calling was not benefiting him to the fact that he could do that. He was just straight drop back, and that's not good.
Right. I think on some of the sacks you look and there's just like, hey, there was no answer on that play. Like especially the strip sack at the goal line. But the one thing you can't do is drop the football. Like, take the sack if there was nothing to do. Like if the protection was wrong, the offensive line gives up a free rusher, that's going to happen sometimes. You got to hold on to the football. And that made it 10-0. I mean, that's a 7-point swing right there. And then you get the ball down deep at the end of the first half. And Brian Callahan has just been so inconsistent with the way he wants to play the end of the first half. And I didn't hate the idea of trying to take a shot there, but Cam Ward, that's on Cam. Of you've got to have that clock in your head of you're holding this ball. There was 16 seconds left in the half on that play, and you're holding that ball for so long. I think he was trying to get rid of it. Like, I think he was trying to throw that into the seats, but you got to do it quicker than that. Like, when you have 3 points on the board, you're in field goal range, and they were only down by 7 at that point. Like, you've got to be able, or they were down 10. They were down 10. It was 10-0. You have to be able to get that ball out and just live to see another down, because you were in field goal range with 16 seconds left. Yeah, you could have played for the field goal and just run it up the middle, but your coach gave you a chance to take a shot. If it's not there, you can't wait until the pressure's right in your face. Arm gets hit, ball pops up, it's an interception. Cam Ward, the 3 turnovers, like, yes, the offensive line didn't help him out, but all of those were pretty inexplicable for Cam Ward yesterday, especially the last one. Just letting it fall out of the back of your hand.
100%. And that's one of the main lessons that Cam Ward has to learn as a rookie, because in the ACC at Miami, he could extend all these plays, make all these Superman plays, and you can get away with that at the college level. At the NFL, right there, that's what I'm talking about. Situational awareness. You got to know when to live to fight another down. And at that point, the Titans just need points. It doesn't matter if it's a touchdown, doesn't matter if it's a field goal. You just need points because you don't want to go into halftime with 0 points like they did yesterday. Throw it away, get rid of it, kick the field goal, go into halftime down 7 instead of down 10.
Yeah, it's the end of half has been just an unmitigated disaster for the Titans. Whether it's Callahan's fault, whether it's Ward's fault, it's mostly It's mostly Callahan's fault. It has just been bad in all aspects for the Titans through the first 6 weeks of the season. They're 1-5. Their one win, you needed 3 of the most ridiculous fumbles of all time to even have a chance. And the Titans seem to be heading nowhere fast. I say all that about Cam Ward probably being the biggest reason to blame for yesterday's loss, but I also want to make it clear that there's a lot of overreaction going on around the Titans fan base right now, and we need to slow things down. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts for us, you can text or call. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Cam Ward, he was bad yesterday. No getting around it. He had a bad game yesterday, but he's still only 6 games into his NFL career. We'll talk Cam Ward coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, off and running on this Monday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. That was Brian Callahan after the game yesterday, talking about Cam Ward's performance and the struggles of the offense, only putting up 10 points and falling to 1-5 on the year. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 the game. Cam Ward was not good yesterday, and I don't think it's breaking news to say that. He turned the ball over 3 times. There was some accuracy issues again. He was holding the ball too long. It wasn't good for Cam Ward. And I would say for yesterday's game alone, I would put the majority of the offensive struggles on Cam Ward, despite him actually having a decent completion percentage for the first time this year. But I would put a majority of the blame on why the offense was bad on Cam Ward. Those turnovers really hurt the team, and he wasn't able to move the football effectively, especially after Calvin Ridley got injured. So, I think Cam Ward deserves a lot of blame for yesterday. But if you're looking at the overall issues with this offense, Cam Ward is not the biggest issue with this team. Like, the offensive line and his receiving core have clearly not helped him out this year. The biggest problem, though, is this coaching staff. Like, they are not putting this team in positions to succeed. Cam Ward is not developing, and they're just running the same plays over and over and hoping for a different result. Like, I understand you have to run screens sometimes or run solution, as he called it yesterday. But, like, clearly you don't have the personnel to execute those plays on a consistent basis. Why are we running it 10 times a game, guys? Like, it does not make any sense, the way that they call the offense and the way they scheme things up around their young quarterback. But I do want to say there are people out there who are bailing on Cam Ward after 6 weeks. And I just don't understand it. I saw multiple tweets yesterday calling Cam Ward a bust, and I saw a couple others saying if Will Levis was healthy right now, he'd be a better option than Cam Ward. I think there are a lot of people out there who have a little bit of confirmation bias because they wanted to trade the first overall pick and didn't want Cam Ward. So they're taking victory laps after 6 games saying that, yeah, they should have traded the pick. Oh, we should have taken Jackson Dart. Like, do you care more about being right than the team that you root for actually having success and finding a franchise quarterback? Because that's what it seems like, is that you just want to be proven right that they should have traded the pick instead of actually finding the quarterback that this franchise has been searching for since Steve McNair left. Like, that, it makes zero sense to me. It's been 6 games. He has played 6 games of NFL football. He is not a bust yet. Could he end up being a bust? Sure. Am I less confident about Cam Ward than I was at the beginning of the season? Yes. But to just bail on him and start taking victory laps on Cam Ward after 6 games is absolutely insane. And I saw way too much of that yesterday on social media.
And what people fail to understand is what exactly were the Giants trying to do when they tried to trade for that number 1 overall pick? They were trying to draft Cam Ward. They would have drafted Cam Ward if they had the opportunity. And I agree with you. I am a little bit less confident in what I've seen from Cam Ward so far, but it doesn't help that everything around him is a mess. Take Bryce Young, for example. Bryce Young it's impossible to have watched him play at Alabama and not think that can translate to the NFL because the talent is clearly there. But everything around him was such a mess that we aren't even seeing signs of that until now. So with Cam Ward, we're not going to see these signs that we're all hoping to see until everything around him gets better.
Well, and I don't understand why everyone's blaming Cam for this. Like, we saw what Brian Callahan did with Will Levis last year. He didn't get any better. And the roster, everybody can agree that the roster is horrible. Cam Ward is going to take some time. And you're looking at, if you watch Cam Ward play, you can clearly see the talent. Like, there are a lot of throws that he makes that a lot of quarterbacks in this league cannot make. And I don't understand how fast everyone is willing to just bail on this quarterback that the Titans tied their franchise to by drafting him with the number 1 overall pick. It makes zero sense to me. And the old adage is you don't know for sure about a quarterback until you're 20 games in, right? Like, you got to give a quarterback 20 games to prove that he can be the guy. And Levis got 9 starts his first year. He got about 20 between his 2 years. And it was pretty clear by the end of it that he was not the guy. Cam Ward is not even a third of the way through his 20 starts that you would like to see before you can make a decision one way or the other. Now, are there quarterbacks who prove it to you before 20 starts? Sure. Like, I think Jaden Daniels, you probably knew after 8 that he was the guy. Same with CJ Stroud. There are outliers like that. But to bail on Cam Ward after 6 weeks and start taking these victory laps of, oh, I told you we were right, we should have traded back. Like, it's insane. He clearly has the talent. And yeah, is he executing at a high level right now? No. He's not making good decisions. He's holding the ball too long. And there's been some accuracy issues. But there has been some good in there too that should make you think that if you can get the right talent and the right coaching around him, he can be a franchise quarterback for this team.
It's like the same conversations that we're having with Arch Manning right now, and that article by The Athletic that labeled him the biggest bust of all time, and he's only played 7 games. A bust, when you call somebody a bust, that's a career-defining term. And yeah, Arch Manning's a junior. Yeah, there were these extremely high expectations placed on him, mainly by the media, but he's played 7 games. Cam Ward, he's a rookie. And what I was having this conversation yesterday with one of my buddies. You have Jeffrey Simmons, and I know Robbie Stanley tweeted this out as well. You have Jeffrey Simmons, but who's the next best player?
Right. I mean, Skoronski, Pollard, those were the two that TD I came up with last week.
And I'd probably agree, but there's not a clear answer, and everything around him has gone to crap. Yeah, the coaching staff sucks, and they're not putting the players in great position, but this roster is terrible.
Robert on the text line says, everything around Will Levis was way worse, and he did a lot better. I don't know if we were watching the same Will Levis last year, but I wouldn't say Levis was better. Has Cam been significantly better? No. Robert says, he's getting worse, guys. What are we doing here? It's been 6 games. Like, it is ludicrous to give up on a young quarterback after 6 games, who you took first overall. Like, this isn't a flyer that you took on Malik Willis, when you put him back there, you could tell that he was lost and did not know how to play the position of quarterback at the NFL level. That is not Cam Ward. Like, is Cam Ward playing well? No, obviously not. But to act like he's going out there and he's the worst quarterback that you've ever seen, which is basically what these people are saying, is like, yeah, 6 games, we know he's a bust. It's insane. And I can't understand why. Like, let's see what he can do when you get the head coach who's 4-19 out of there. How about that?
And maybe surround him with an offensive line that can protect him a little bit better.
Right.
And some more pass catchers who don't drop the football.
Like, we had this whole conversation last week about how organizations fail quarterbacks before quarterbacks fail organizations. And you look at, like, I'm watching Baker Mayfield highlights on Good Morning Football right now of him basically carrying the Buccaneers to a win over the 49ers yesterday and putting himself at the head of MVP conversations. Like, that is a former number 1 overall pick who the Browns gave up on. And guess what? It wasn't him who was bad. It was the Browns organization. Let's see if you can put better people around Cam Ward before we give up on him after 6 games. I cannot believe we're having this conversation right now. I wonder if this is, and we just got a text from Mike about Jackson Dart. I wonder if this is part of the Jackson Dart thing of, like, they're seeing one example of a quarterback having marginal success somewhere else, and you want to give up because your quarterback isn't doing the same.
And I think Jackson Dart, granted it's not by much, but I think he's in a much better position because he has a superstar wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. Yeah, he's hurt. But Cam Scadaboo is looking like a stud at running back. His offensive line is a little bit better. I think Brian Daboll is a great play caller. Brian Callahan has never called a play in the NFL until he got to Tennessee. Brian Daboll at least called plays in Buffalo.
Right. And he is Brian Daboll is regarded as the reason Josh Allen developed into the quarterback he is now. Robert says, why didn't we say that with Levis? Robert, I am making the point that it's been 6 games for Cam Ward. I just counted through. I gave up fully on Will Levis after the Bengals game. That was the game last year that I said, all right, he can't be the quarterback here next year. because he threw 3 interceptions and fumbled the ball. That was his 20th start. So I just told you, pretty much all football people will tell you that 20 starts is what you need to make a firm decision about the quarterback. Will Levis got 20 before he was finally benched for good and was stopped. Cam Ward has 6 starts. He's got almost a full season until he gets to 20. Like, can we just pump the brakes a little bit? It's been 6 games. Like, there is absolutely no reason to give up on the young quarterback after 6 games. It's been a month and a half. Let's see where we are in December. I keep saying this. Let's see where we are in December. And if by the end of this year and Cam Ward's played all 17 and he hasn't gotten any better, then maybe you start having these conversations about, all right, he's got to prove it to us at the beginning of next year. But anybody acting like he's a bust and he's not going to be the starting quarterback week 1 of 2026, it's insane. It is absolutely insane. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. I mean, I don't understand how the fan base has turned this fast on the quarterback that they just took first overall. I mean, I guess maybe it's not turning. It's all the people who didn't want him in the first place.
This fan base is insufferable sometimes, man. That's all I have to say.
Skylar asked the question, Jake, do you regret preaching that the Titans needed to start Cam Ward this season? I didn't think it was a good idea because the team around him and coaches were awful. This is exactly what an organization does to ruin a quarterback. No, Cam Ward was not a project quarterback in terms of like needing to sit the bench. He had played so much at the college level. He's going to get better by playing. You just got to get people around him. He hasn't been good. I'm not trying to tell you like that, close your eyes and look at and say Cam Ward has been a great quarterback. He hasn't been, but it's been 6 games. To give up on the first overall pick after 6 games is absolutely insane. And guess what? If you give up on him and he's not the guy, your franchise is set back another 5 years. So get on board with Cam Ward or this team's not going to be very good for a long time. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll continue to take your thoughts. You can text or call our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mondays were made for Macero. Big screens, bold flavors, and all the football action from queso to kickoffs. This is how Macero does game night. Macero Football Mondays in 12 South. Don't miss a snap. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. DVD with Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingen will be broadcasting live at the all-new Circus Sportsbook Kentucky in the Mint Gaming Hall today. Prior to the Monday Night Football games, we got a doubleheader tonight. Bills and Falcons and the Bears and Commanders. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Having a conversation about Titans fans who are bailing on Cam Ward after 6 games. And just to clarify my comments here, like I'm not I do believe that Cam Ward has been much worse than I expected this year. And I said when we opened the show, I'm less confident about Cam Ward being the franchise quarterback than I was at the beginning of the year. But 6 games is just way too small of a sample size to act like we know what this quarterback is going to be moving forward, especially with how bad the coaching has been. I mean, the common thread throughout the last couple of seasons is Brian Callahan. And he was given a chance with what I think everybody agreed was a promising young quarterback in Will Levis. But, you know, it was more of a wait and see with Levis. He was a second-round pick. And he didn't get better. He got worse. And at that point, it was like, all right, well, you know, let's give Callahan another shot at it, which you can agree with or disagree with. And Callahan has clearly not done enough so far this year. And he's not putting his quarterback in a situation to win. I would like to see Cam Ward with a competent head coach and a competent play caller moving forward. And that's what I'm trying to get at here is like, hey, what it felt like for the first 4 weeks of the season, all Titans fans kind of had their targets set on Callahan. And for some reason, the last couple of weeks, it's shifted to Ward. And I don't know why you're blaming Cam Ward when we have the evidence to show you that Brian Callahan, for 23 games now, has not been able to put a competent offense on the field.
It's just a shifting of the blame, right? Musical chairs. It went from, oh, it's Mike Vrabel's fault to now it's Rand Carthon, and now it's Amy, it's Callahan, it's Cam. It's just a shifting of the blame. And there's plenty of it to go around because this organization has been incompetent the last couple of years. But to blame a rookie quarterback who is in 6 games when there's so much, again, the only word that comes to mind for me is incompetence, because that's what it is. I sit down and I watch this team play every single week. I go to the home games. I talk to the coaches. I've talked to the players. I'm at practice. So I see it. It is hard to watch week after week. It does not look like a legit NFL team.
It's horrible on all levels. And Cam Ward does deserve part of the blame. Like he is a reason why this team is 1-5. But to put all of it on him and say he's not the guy and he's a bust after six games, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that's crazy. Let's give him some time. Like, quarterbacks aren't the same guy that they are in game 6 as they are in game 15. And if he doesn't get any better over the next 3 months towards the end of the season, then maybe we do start to have conversations of like, all right, he's got to prove it to us. But Cam Ward is going to be the quarterback week 1 of 2026. You did not take him first overall just to give up on him after 1 year. They're going to get another coach in here who they believe can develop him, and we'll see. But the story on Cam Ward has not been written yet. Like it is far from over. And that's all I'm trying to say is like Callahan's going to get fired. They're going to bring in a new head coach, and we'll see if Cam Ward can develop underneath a new regime with hopefully better pieces around him. But 6 games is way too small of a sample size to call anybody a bust. Like, that's insane.
Was Baker Mayfield a bust? Was Bryce Young? The story's still being written on Bryce Young, but there are plenty of examples. Sam Darnold, so many teams, fans threw in the towel after such a limited sample size, and look at these guys now.
Lenny on a text line says, explain Jackson Dart. Guys, Jackson Dart has played 3 games. Like, the story on him hasn't been written yet either. And guess what? He lost to the Saints last week. We cannot make judgments on quarterbacks based off of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Like, quarterback stories and careers are written over seasons, not over games. Like, let's see what these guys do moving forward, because I again, if you had to give me the choice right now, I'd still take Cam Ward over Jackson Dart. I would. The talent there is a different talent level for Cam Ward than there is for Jackson Dart. And the Giants saw it too. That's why they tried to trade up and come up and get Cam Ward. The biggest issue with this team right now is coaching, and they need to make a change. I don't know if it's going to happen this week. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit later on. The popular answer is next week after Mike Vrabel comes in here. Maybe it ends up being the draft, or not, the bye week. But at some point, Brian Callahan's not going to be the head coach anymore. And we have to see what Cam Ward can do with hopefully a competent group coaching him in this building. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines. Billy is on the line, and I guess wants to talk about Shedeur Sanders. Billy, what you got for us?
The biggest problem with this team, they should have took Shedeur. The reason the coach in Cleveland's not playing Shedeur because they know he's going to go out there and win. But the Titans ain't in a bad spot because they're going to get a top 3 pick. Pick the quarterback from Indiana, Fernandez.
Oh, Fernando Mendoza?
Take Fernandez Mendoza. Competition is always good at no matter what position. If Fernandez Mendoza come in there, it'll make Cam step his game up.
Thanks for the call, Billy. I don't.
What are your thoughts, Jake?
I'm not biting. Like, sorry. Shedeur Sanders was a 5th round pick. Like,
I had to phone that one just because it was so ridiculous.
Yep,
I just had to do it.
Not biting on that one. That's great bait, but I'm not biting. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any thoughts like that, 7988 says, has Shedeur even played an NFL game? No, he is not. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We at 1025 The Game and Cromwell Media are thinking of the folks in Hickman and Humphrey counties who have been impacted by the ammunitions plant tragedy. When one Tennessean hurts, we all hurt, and our thoughts are with everyone out there in Hickman and Humphrey counties. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break on the Titans. We're going to spend most of our 2 hours that we have today on the Titans as we lead you into Preds coverage coming up at 11 a.m. pregame for the Predators. But the biggest story of the weekend comes from Happy Valley. James Franklin fired after losing 3 straight games. We've got to touch on it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, wrapping up hour number 1 on this Monday. Again, shortened show today. It is Canadian Thanksgiving. It's been confirmed to me. So happy Canadian Thanksgiving. The Predators are up in the Great White North. They are taking on the Ottawa Senators today. It is a noon puck drop, so 11 a.m. pregame. So we're leading you right up to that. Shortened show today. Have to get everything in. So we will get back to the Titans coming up at the top of the hour. But I did have to mention James Franklin being fired. I joked on Friday about how, you've got a great game coming up, Penn State Northwestern. And I thought there was almost zero chance they could lose that game, right? Like you're coming off the UCLA game, which made sense to be a letdown, right? Like you just played a hard-fought overtime game against a top 5 team in Oregon and you lost. It made sense to have a letdown going across the country to play UCLA. And then you lose to Northwestern the next week. And I know all the jokes were kind of coming out of like, is James Franklin going to get fired? And Penn State did it yesterday. Could not believe it. I mean, this is a guy who has been, he was in the college football playoff semifinals 9 months ago.
Yep, a 13-win season too.
9 months ago, he was coaching in the college football playoff semifinals, and now he is unemployed. And for Penn State, I wonder if this is going to be like a situation where the grass isn't always greener. Like, I get it. You want a guy who can win the big game, right? Like that's Penn State. They're not a happy to be there type of program. They're not looking to just get into the playoff every year. They want to go win a national championship. And I get the notion of this guy can't win the big one. Now he's losing the small ones. Maybe it's time for a change. But I just don't know. Like the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Matt Rule is the guy who's being rumored as his replacement. And I like Matt Rule. But do you look at Matt Rule as a guy who's won the big ones in the past? Like he's not a guy who's proven that he can win at the elite levels of college football. Like, yeah, he was really good at Baylor. And he got Baylor to the Big 12 championship, but didn't win, correct? Like,
yeah, well, they played in the Sugar Bowl that year versus Georgia and Jake Fromm.
Yeah.
And
so
won.
Right. Like, so he's won New Year's 6 games. Fine. But like, is Matt Rule significantly better than James Franklin? And I wonder if that's going to be something Penn State regrets moving forward. Now, James Franklin is making what, $50 million off the buyout? I mean, crazy money. And I did see a tweet yesterday from a reporter who said that there is a duty to mitigate clause in his contract, which means he does have to go look for a coaching job. He can't just go, sit on a beach somewhere and collect $49 million without trying to get a coaching job. Could he bomb the interviews on purpose? Sure. But he has to at least go try and get a coaching job. If he did get back into head coaching, where do you think he might end up, Parker? Like, would it make sense Arkansas, or if Florida opens up, if Kentucky opens up? Is that where you would think they might end up?
I'm going to be honest. I think Kentucky would. Now, I've been, 10 toes down on the fact that I think John Gruden is going to end up at Arkansas, so I won't say Arkansas. But if you're looking for what James Franklin's problem was at Penn State was what you said, the failure to win the big one, to get over the hump. If you go to Kentucky's expectation is not national championship every year. They just want consistency. And James Franklin does provide that at least.
That is true.
And it's a very low pressure job.
Right. What James Franklin has done over the last 10 years at Penn State would be, they'd build him a statue at a lot of different places. And it was so funny, being a Virginia Tech guy, and Virginia Tech has an opening right now. The amount of Virginia Tech fans that I saw saying, stay away from our program, James Franklin. Like, I wouldn't touch James Franklin. I'm like, you understand that what James Franklin has done over the past 10 years at Penn State is exactly the glory days under Frank Beamer that you wanted. A team that was consistently in the top 10, but couldn't actually win the big one. Like it's hilarious to see Virginia Tech fans basically act like they're too good for James Franklin, who has had more success at Penn State than the Hokies have had maybe ever. I mean, they went to a national championship game, but I thought that was funny. Like James Franklin, he's a good football coach. Is he a guy who can win you a national championship? Maybe not, but I think there's going to be a program that's going to jump at the opportunity to take him. And if you're in Arkansas and he turns you into a consistent 8 to 9 win team, isn't that really good at Arkansas? Like, isn't that something I think Arkansas fans would sign up for?
That's another thing that they've been wanting is consistency. You're not going to contend for national championships year in and year out at Arkansas, but James Franklin would be able to provide that consistency that Hogs fans, and they're very passionate across all sports, and that's honestly just what they want.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be one of the craziest coaching carousels I think we've ever seen. I mean, with some of the names that are being thrown out there, like, does John Gruden want to get into coaching at some point? I mean, I'm not really sure what to expect. The Penn State job obviously becomes the biggest name out there on the market. I think James Franklin puts himself at the top of a lot of schools' hiring lists. Tom in Nashville makes the point that, does Penn State go back to the well and call Clark Lee? I wouldn't think so. I think that's a reason why Virginia Tech wouldn't go after James Franklin, is because Brent Pry was his protege at Penn State. So the connection there, I don't know if Penn State would want to go back to Vandy a second time, but and I don't know if Clark Lee would want to leave. I really don't. I don't know if Clark Lee would want to go, but Robert makes a good point here. He says, "Oh, you mean the same thing Amy Adams did when she fired Malarkey and Vrabel?" Yeah. I mean, that's the classic definition of the grass isn't always greener. And you always got to make the point that, yeah, Mike Vrabel lost 18 of his last 24 games here. But the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I'm wondering if Penn State's going to figure that out. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Edward is on the line wanting to chime in on the conversation. Edward, thanks for calling. What you got for us?
Hey, can you hear me okay, guys?
Yep, we got you.
Hey, I just heard for the first time that James Franklin, I've been away from my phone and social media and everything else, that James Franklin has been fired. What a shock. You look at his history. I sat in front of him at a Vanderbilt basketball game. I'm an MTSU fan, graduate. He was on the phone the entire game recruiting. I mean, I could hear the conversations. Here's a great idea, guys. Let's get Chris Massaro to pick up the phone from Middle Tennessee State University AD, and let's just make an offer to James Franklin. Middle Tennessee State University football needs to be better than what it is. Why not go for the big dog here and ask James Franklin? I mean, you look at his record, and one of you mentioned it earlier. Just look at his record. It's incredible. He's a winning coach. And those are just my comments. Thanks.
Appreciate the call, Edward. Find it hard to believe James Franklin would want to go to MTSU. Text from Bud on the text line kind of plays off this. Here's the thing you're really forgetting. James Franklin has an ego so large is the reason programs don't want him. If he wants to go win and have a chance for a national championship, his best option may be Florida State if there's a change there. Yeah, and Florida State now 0-3 in the ACC. I think he's going to go to a big name school because I think he's going to have that the Brady Belichick kind of thing, like of I want to go prove I can do it somewhere else. And he's going to have to go to a pretty big program with resources to be able to recreate the same success he had at Penn State.
Yeah, but James Franklin, I looked at this last night, and in terms of active head coaches, he's 5th in wins. So it's not like he's a terrible coach. He's a good coach. The problem with Penn State was they weren't contending for national championships, which they hoped they would have been able to do this year with everyone they had coming back.
Right.
That's been the problem.
Yeah, I mean, this was supposed to be his best team, and he just lost to UCLA and Northwestern back-to-back weeks. So, doesn't completely shock me that he was fired, but I mean, I think shocking that it happened right now. And we'll see. Where does Penn State go? Matt Rule is the early name. I know Kurt Signetti's been mentioned, but I think it's more interesting to see where James Franklin could go. French on the YouTube chat does make a good point that I think the contract, what he could get from Penn State and the offset clause or duty to mitigate clause, he could take a contract lower than the buyout amount and still get some of the Penn State money, but obviously it would go down based on what he's getting paid at his new spot. So lots to work out there. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Crazy news over the weekend. James Franklin losing his third straight game and then being fired. Penn State with an opening and James Franklin out on the market. Coaching carousel going to heat up over the next couple of months. When we come back, we'll get back into the Titans for our second and final hour of the show. Again, we are getting out a little early today. Preds playing at noon Central Time, taking on Ottawa for the start of this 4-game Canadian road trip. We'll talk some Preds in the final hour of the show. And again, get back into the Titans. Brian Callahan, he got a week off from the hot seat talk after finally winning a game, no matter how lucky they got to win that game. But yesterday, I think, put him firmly right back where he was before the Arizona win. What happens now with Mike Vrabel coming to town? We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly BI membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Again, we are shortened today. Canadian Thanksgiving, Preds starting a week-long Canadian road trip. 4 games in 6 days starting this afternoon against the Ottawa Senators. We'll talk some Preds in this final hour as they got 3 out of 4 possible points in their first 2 games at home to start the season. Again, taking on the Senators in the first of a back-to-back today. 12 o'clock puck drop, 11 a.m. pregame coming up right after us here on 102.5 The Game. Back into the Titans here, though. Brian Callahan, when he was 0-4, I was a little bit surprised that he was not let go after the Texans game. You know, that if there's one thing that the Adams family hates the most, it is losing to the Houston Texans. And they didn't only lose, they lost 26-0. So I was a little bit surprised that they kept him around. But he goes out, and as much as the Cardinals gave it to him, you can't fire a coach after a win, especially with how few there have been. So they win the game. Scored 16 in the fourth quarter with the 3 crazy turnovers, and they get the win. And again, we led the show with this, Parker, that the question we asked all week last week was it a fluke, or was it the start of the ascent for this team of showing some progress? And we got our answer on yesterday in Las Vegas. It was horrible from the Titans, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I think Brian Callahan is right back where he was before the Arizona win, if not even hotter of a seat.
Yeah, and even after the Cardinals game, I didn't feel much different because the Cardinals basically tried to hand the team the game, and the Titans capitalized on it, but it was one good quarter of football. And after this, it even solidifies my opinion further that he should be let go sooner rather than later.
Yeah, with Callahan, my long-term view of him didn't change after the Cardinals, but at least you could see, you're like, all right, they won a game, they showed some good stuff. Let's see what he does with it next week. And, you know, it looked even worse than before the win. So, yeah, it's a when, not an if at this point. And I'm half joking here when I say this, but would it make sense to fire him this week before New England? Just don't give Vrabel the satisfaction of blowing out his successor, because that's what it's going to be on Sunday. I have never been more confident in a result of an NFL football game than I am for this Sunday when the Patriots come to town. There's going to be mostly New England fans in that stadium, and Vrabel is going to try and run up the score. If you don't think Mike Vrabel is going to go try and win that game by 40, you don't know Mike Vrabel. He is going to try and run up the score. And I just wonder if Amy, can you just be like, yeah, let's just pull the plug now and don't give Vrabel the satisfaction of beating his successor. And who knows, maybe you get the interim coach bump and you only lose by 20 instead of 35 to this team if you do let him go.
Well, even if Callahan is fired, I don't see much changing for Vrabel because he wants to beat this team into the ground.
Right. No, I mean, it's going to be the same either way. And I'd love for them to prove me wrong and show some fight. As Robbie said at the end of Robbie and Rex Road this morning, do you have any pride? I'd love to see some fight from this team. I don't really see it. I think Vrabel's going to beat them down this weekend. I'm half joking saying that they should fire him just to avoid the embarrassment of that, but I don't think they're going to do it. Lenny says you got to get rid of Brinker also, and that is going to be the big question of the offseason.
Yes.
I think we're to the point where Callahan being let go is almost a near certainty. It is a near certainty. The question about Brinker is the big one for the offseason of, do they hold him accountable too? Or is he just, does he have Amy's ear and he's going to be the one running the show from here on out? That is going to be the big question. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's get to your phones. Rich is on the line wanting to talk Titans. Rich, thanks for calling. Good morning. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, guys. Hey, I'm a PSL owner for 25 years. Hey, I just think, these past couple of drafts, I think we drafted the wrong quarterbacks. Cam's I don't know, something with his mechanics, it looks off. Just a gut feel. And with the Patriots coming in tough, they're not going to beat the Patriots. I look at the schedule. I don't see them winning another game. And the game against the Cardinals, it was a fluke to actually win that game. And I also want to see what you thought about that, and I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Rich. With the quarterback thing, again, like let's give the young quarterback some time. I do agree that part of the reason this team is as bad as it is, and it's not the whole reason. The biggest reason is you picked the wrong players, right? Like John Robinson's last 3 drafts were horrible. Even the 2023 draft hasn't looked that great. So it has not worked out picking the players, but part of that is wasting picks on quarterbacks. And I would love to have the 3 other players that you could have gotten instead of Malik Willis, Will Levis, and the 3rd round pick you traded to go get Will Levis, right? And hindsight's 2020. If one of those guys turns out to be your franchise quarterback, then it was worth whatever you gave up to go get them. But you're right that, you've now spent top 100 picks on 3.
Sorry, I was doing something back here. I realized that you stopped talking. I'm like, oh no, I was editing something back here.
Yeah, sometimes the buttons get pressed. It's all good.
Yeah.
No, I'd love to. You spent 3 top 100 prospects on quarterbacks in the last 4 drafts. Like, I'd love to have those extra picks. So,
yeah, no, and that's really, if you're looking for blame pie, it's the same thing in college. Like, if you bring in bad recruiting classes and you continue to stack bad recruiting classes on bad recruiting classes, eventually it's going to catch up to you no matter how good the coaching staff is. In this case, the coaching staff isn't good and the talent isn't there on the roster. We would like to believe that Borgonzi has hit, or whoever was drafting has hit on the rookies. The early returns are that he did, but it's not enough. And you need more of those players. And that hasn't been the case.
I got to say, no one loves Femi Oladejo more than Jonathan Vilma. Did you listen to him talking about Femi yesterday? That was so funny. It's like, you've been really impressed with Femi Oladejo, haven't you, Jonathan? He's like, oh yeah, this guy's a player right here. And then when Femi got hurt, Jonathan Vilma was like, oh, this is a massive loss for this team. I'm like, do they think Femi is Myles Garrett somehow? Like, I don't understand. Jonathan Vilma might be the only guy out there who has been significantly impressed with Femi. See, I thought Femi did play better yesterday. He had a couple of nice tackles for loss. One of them was 5 yards in the backfield. So, like, there's been some good with Femi, but it was just funny to hear Jonathan Vilma talking about Femi Oladejo like the Titans just drafted Javon Curse reincarnated. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, and then he did have the one really good play, the tackle for loss, like early on in the game, and you're like, yes, finally, like that's what you want to see out of a 2nd round pick, and you're kind of hoping that it's come together, but he still has a long ways to go before he wants to be even a remotely good outside backer / edge rusher in the league.
Let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey is on the line, and Trey, I'm sure, has plenty of thoughts on Cam Ward's performance yesterday. Thanks for calling. What you got for us, Trey?
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Hey, I wanted to put on the record, I can't watch it. I just can't watch it. I haven't watched the Titan game in about 3 years. I normally listen to it on the radio because with my former job, I used to be able to listen to it. So I listen on the radio. But what I get from Cam Ward is that he just don't have the fundamentals. He doesn't have the field awareness. He doesn't know how to, get away from, sack coverage. And I don't think it's going to get better. I think it's actually probably going to get worse. And, it's coming to the point to where, it's like everybody say, give it some time, give it some time. But these are fundamentals that he should already know. And, I've been saying this since July that we picked the wrong man for the job. And it's kind of like him being an imposter, really, because you can only fake it for so long before your true attributes come out in you, And I don't think he has it. I hope he has it. I hope he gets it. But right now, I don't think he has it, guys. And I love y'all, and I thank y'all for letting me take the time out to express myself every day. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Trey. You actually, I think, have more people that agree with you than usual on that take. I am always I'm gonna stick with giving the quarterback time because again, it's been 6 games, 6 games, and has it gotten worse since week 1? Maybe, yeah, but I think you got to point at the coaching staff right now. Let's see what he can be when he has a competent coaching staff and better pieces around him. This is not a 1-year fix where Cam Ward is supposed to come in and be Jaden Daniels or CJ Stroud. Like, they raised the expectations way too high with those rookie years over the last 2 seasons. Like, it's not always going to be just instant microwave success for these young quarterbacks. You have to build around him. This Titans franchise, they have tied their wagon to Cam Ward. So I promise you, he's getting next year, and unless it's really awful, he's probably getting 3. Like, and you got to give him a coaching staff. You got to give him some weapons. I agree, it hasn't been good enough, but it's way too early to be jumping ship because guess what? The Titans have no other choice but to stick with Cam Ward for at least the next 2 seasons.
And that is often the worst case scenario for a lot of these rookie quarterbacks is what Jaden Daniels was able to do, what CJ Stroud was able to do in year 1. If you think about Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, set a league record that still stands to this day for most interceptions thrown in a season. So, and he look at the career he went on to have. And not saying that Cam Ward is going to have that same success, but it's not always apples to apples in terms of rookie quarterback play.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You can get your texts or calls in. I did want to touch on Jeffrey Simmons and the comments that he made post-game. Cam Ward also had some interesting comments post-game. We'll get into that coming up next. We'll talk some Preds towards the end of the show as, again, the Predators are getting ready to take the ice in Ottawa to start off their 4-game Canadian road trip. Pre-game coverage coming up in about 45 minutes with puck drop at noon. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. That was Jeffrey Simmons after the game yesterday. Said that they were flat at practice on Thursday. Said it was maybe the worst week of practice that they've had. And makes sense based on the results we saw on the field in Las Vegas yesterday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Again, a shortened show today. We're taking you up to the top of the hour when Preds pregame will take over. Predators are taking on the Ottawa Senators to start off a 4-game Canadian road trip over the next 6 days. And we will talk some Predators towards the end of the show. But the Titans, I think you saw the team start to turn on the coaching yesterday a little bit. And it wasn't outward, but Jeffrey Simmons saying how bad practice was. Cam Ward goes, he's not lying. And Cam Ward was asked about communication, and he says the player-to-player communication is great, which would make you think that the coach-to-player communication is not great, or the coach-to-coach communication is not good. And you know, Cam Ward has not been shy about defending Brian Callahan and saying that he wants stability and wants to make Brian Callahan one of the best coaches in the league. But at this point, there's just not a whole lot of hope that he's like. I talk about small sample size for Cam Ward and it only being 6 games, and you can't judge him based on that completely. Like, it's been 23 games for Brian Callahan. You know what he's going to be. And even the 4 wins that he has, like, if you go through those 4 wins, there's really only one that you could tout as impressive, right? Like, the Dolphins win on Monday night was with Tyler Huntley starting at quarterback. And I believe Tyreek Hill got hurt midway through that game too.
They had a lot of injuries.
The Patriots game, that was at home against a horrible Patriots team last year, and you won in overtime because Drake May threw a couple of interceptions. Then the Texans game last year, I could call that one impressive. That one surprised me. They put up points in that game. Sure, we'll call that one impressive. But the Cardinals game, you were down by 15 points and needed miracles to get back into it. So really, out of his 23 games, there's only one you could look at and be like, yeah, that looked good. And they won the game. And it has to be over sooner rather than later. And this weekend with Vrabel coming in, I saw somebody put out there that if Mike Vrabel wins this game on Sunday at Nissan Stadium, he will have the same amount of wins at Nissan Stadium as Brian Callahan since they fired Mike Vrabel.
Wow. No, that's true. Only 1 win at Nissan Stadium.
Yep.
Wow.
And
I didn't even realize that.
Brian Callahan also still has more preseason wins than he does regular season wins. I mean,
all stats that you do not want to have.
The numbers have never looked good, but now that you're hearing little comments like that from the players, and the players didn't throw Brian Callahan under the bus yesterday. It wasn't like we need our coaches to put us in better positions, blah, blah, blah. But those are the little comments that start to happen when you lose a locker room, right? Because typically when you haven't lost a locker room, guys will keep that in-house. Like I'm sure there's complaints about coaching and they keep that in-house. They keep that within themselves. When it starts to leak out into the media and you say stuff like that about how bad the practices were and that the communication isn't great, like that's when you start to worry about losing the locker room. I just can't see Brian Callahan being the coach here after the bye week. Like that is the deadline I'm kind of going to put on it, because I don't know what help is it going to be to have him here for 17 games. You got 11 more games this season, and it's clearly not getting better. I understand there's not a whole lot of advantage to having an interim head coach, right? Like, it's not like things are going to change drastically, but I think getting Brian Callahan and this offensive coaching staff away from Cam Ward can only help.
It certainly couldn't make things any worse. I can't imagine things getting any worse than they already are. But we talk about the players losing, or the coach losing the locker room, and I didn't think that it had happened yet. But with some of these comments that are coming out, what Jeff Simmons said yesterday, what Cam Ward said yesterday, maybe those are early signs that it's already started to happen. It's already started to fester a little bit. So
yeah,
you definitely his days are numbered.
Jeremy in Clarksville says, last week you told us a win is a win, no matter the circumstances. Table's starting to turn. I said that, yeah, you celebrate those wins, but like you also, I was the big one on Monday last week saying that you got to be able to, You got to be able to look at the good and the bad, celebrate the win, but also understand that it wasn't a good way to win a football game.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't we look at both sides of it?
Yeah.
We celebrated the win because we needed something to talk about positive.
Right. It's been months. It was 10 months since he had a win, but we also spent an hour talking about how, winning that way is not sustainable. And we saw that this week. The Titans were in a similar situation as they were last week. You're down 20-3 heading to the fourth quarter. Basically the same score as it was in Arizona. And guess what? The Raiders didn't hand you 3 easy turnovers. It's just not good all around. There's really not a whole lot of redeeming qualities anywhere on this defense, on this team. I was going to say, except for maybe something on the defense. I thought the defensive front was pretty good yesterday. Jeffrey Simmons continues to play at an elite level. He had another sack yesterday. He made some plays. He forced that interception to Cody Barton. I thought that Draymond Jones and Jihad Ward both had decent games yesterday. They got called for some stupid penalties, but they were impact players, which is something that we hadn't seen from the edge group. So, this is it's a situation where you look at the rest of the year and there's just not a lot of wins left. The Saints game and the Browns game are the two you can point at as maybe there's a chance, but I don't see, outside of those two games, I don't see any realistic wins on this schedule. Patriots, Colts, Chargers before the bye week. Nope. Texans at home, maybe. We don't really know what the Texans are. They've beaten the Titans and the Ravens with Cooper Rush at quarterback. So who knows? Seahawks, no. Jaguars, probably not. 49ers, Chiefs, Jaguars. You're looking at 3 wins again. Maybe. That might be too optimistic.
It's sad when we're talking about the ceiling for this team being 3 wins once again.
Right. When this was heading into the year, I think the expectation was that we were going to see a lot of things get better. But outside of a couple of players here and there hasn't been a whole lot of improvement. And at the end of the day, that's an indictment on the head coach. And it's probably why he's not going to be the head coach here very much longer. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Couple more Titans odds and ends we'll get to, and we'll get into the Predators as they are about 90 minutes away from getting their game going against the Ottawa Senators on Canadian Thanksgiving. We'll talk Titans, we'll talk Preds. We'll wrap up the show over the next 30 minutes here on Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake, Lyman, Parker, Kelley with you for a couple more segments here as we lead you right into Preds pregame coverage. Predators starting a 4-game Canadian road trip starting this afternoon in Ottawa, taking on the Senators. Pregame at 11, puck drop at noon. So I do want to talk some Preds, but a couple more things to get into with the Titans. The scoop and score that was taken off the board. I just always like to bring those plays up because I have learned, as most Titans fans I'm sure have, that if the Titans are involved in a question of whether the arm is going forward on a pass for a fumble or incomplete, it is always going to go against the Titans. Just expect that. I actually personally did think that one was incomplete. I did think his arm was moving forward, but it didn't matter either way. It was going to go against the Titans because that's just what it does. It's such and all of this leads back to the Josh Dobbs one from the win and in game in 2022, because it was pretty clear Josh Dobbs' arm was moving forward, at least compared to what we've seen the last couple of years. I think Justin Herbert had one against the Titans that they called incomplete. Maybe it was Derek Carr, the Saints quarterback, in that opener. I think they had one too. So
was it Derek Carr?
I think it was in that opener.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So there's been multiple examples of that exact play going against the Titans. And of course, the one that cost the Titans a spot in the playoffs did not go their way. And who knows if things go the same way with Mike Vrabel if they do win that game, right? Maybe they still go 6-11 the next year. I don't know. But if you get into the playoffs there, maybe Mike Vrabel sticks around a little bit longer. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it is funny. It doesn't matter. It's always close too, but it's always going to go against the Titans. That play 100% of the time. Shout out Jeffrey Simmons, still elite. A little bit concerned about the injury to Calvin Ridley. That didn't look good. Him sitting there in the hamstring wrap, and those things tend to linger. Brian Callahan said he couldn't run during the game. So you wonder if that's going to be something that takes a while. And Cam Ward without Calvin Ridley on the field, if you think Cam Ward has struggled now, having his receivers out there be a rookie Alec Iamaner, Van Jefferson, and Tyler Lockett is probably not going to make it much better. We'll have we don't have enough time today because we're shortened, but we will have the Xavier Restrepo conversation tomorrow when Nick Fraser's in here. I feel like we have to wait for Tony Tuesdays to bring that up.
Oh, he'll be all over that.
But yeah, we will bring that up with Nick Fraser tomorrow. I mentioned in the last segment too, Draymond Jones and Jihad Ward, those guys are not supposed to be impact players. And they both had some plays yesterday. They hurt the team too. Ward had 2 times where he lined up in the neutral zone, which he can't do that. It's just stupid. And then the big one for Draymond Jones was the sack on 3rd down in the red zone of Geno Smith, where he got the face mask. I mean, that's a 4-point penalty right there. The Raiders score on the next play. You had them held to 3. You went too high. You grabbed the face mask, and you give up 7 about 30 seconds later. So, good and bad for both of those guys. It was good to see them more impactful, but they did the stupid stuff that hurts the team that ended up costing the Titans some points on a couple of drives. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's talk some Predators the rest of the show. Preds getting ready to take on the Ottawa Senators today as they are starting this 4-game Canadian road trip. And overall, a good weekend for the Predators. I think you left a lot to be desired, especially on the power play. It wasn't good enough for this Preds team with those opportunities. But to get out of your first 2 games after last year's 0-5 start, where again you're sitting after 5 games with 0 points, to get out of those 2 games at home with 3 out of the 4 possible points, I think that's a win for this Preds team. I think you're going to learn a lot about this team over the next 6 days because you're going on the road. We talked with Max Hers about it, and Max will be on the call today from Ottawa. And Max, as always, will join us on Friday from 9 to 10 to talk all things Predators. But you look at this team last year, they had a lot of home games early on, and it felt like they could not find a rhythm. And now You were able to get those first two the points in your first two games at home, and you get this chance to go on the road as a team up to Canada and play four pretty talented teams. I mean, you got Ottawa today, you got Toronto tomorrow, Montreal on Thursday, and then Winnipeg on Saturday to get through these four games. You don't have to go win all of them, right? Like you don't have to go 4-0 and pick up 8 points, but man, if you could get half the possible points in this week, like that's huge for this team to put themselves in a good position. And it's early on in the year, but I think UC Saros has looked good. And I believe, have we seen whether he's going to be in net today?
No idea.
I don't know if they would do a morning skate with how early the game is, but we'll keep an eye on it if he's going to be in net. You would guess he's either going to be in net today or he's going to be in net tomorrow. It's a back-to-back, so you're going to get on and in for one of them. But this is a Preds team that has an opportunity to go out and get some early points on the road and get some momentum. And that's huge for this team. Again, last year, that 0-5 start killed them with all of the new pieces. And it looks like you're going to be getting some guys back from injury soon, too. I know Max Hers was high on Matthew Wood, and they just sent him down to Milwaukee for, could kind of serve as a rehab stint, like a baseball rehab stint. Go down there and you can go and get a couple of reps before you come up and play at the NHL level. And maybe that coincides with Brady Martin possibly being sent back to juniors. And Nick Hague was out on the ice, who he's been on injured reserve. It'd be great to get him back out there, likely going to be Roman Yossi's partner on that top defensive line. So this is a team that's gotten off to a good start through two games. This is a chance to go prove yourself over the next week, right? Like it's a chance to go out and prove that you are more like the team that made the playoffs 2 years ago than the team that had the third worst record in hockey last year. And it's just super early, but this is a chance to go and establish yourself as a contender for the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and like the team that in the preseason last year was getting all of the hype, and you go out and you win your first game, which is a big deal, and then going to overtime with the Utah Mammoth. So explain this to me, because I was looking at this, and I'm looking at the Predators' record. It's 1-0-1. So does that count as a tie or a draw?
Overtime loss.
Overtime loss.
We're
Okay, I'm not a hockey expert.
We're going to get you up on
full
hockey.
Disclosure.
Full
disclosure.
So hockey, they do a point system for their standings. So a win, any way you get it, regulation, overtime, shootout, counts as 2 points. A loss is 0, obviously, but an overtime loss is 1. So it makes sure that, I really like it because it makes sure that a 3-on-3 5-minute overtime period or a shootout doesn't make a huge difference in the standings. Like you're able to get that bonus point if you win, but it doesn't completely hurt you if you lose. So
okay, there we go.
Yeah, so they lost 3-2 in overtime to Utah on Saturday. Coming up in just about an hour, taking on the Ottawa Senators on Canadian Thanksgiving. Going to be a fun one. I will be locked in on the radio. Max Hers on the call. And we've got pregame coverage coming up for you in just about 20 minutes. We will take one final break here. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, Preds, Titans, whatever, get those in now. Last call for phones. We'll get to those in the final segment and continue to preview the Predators and Senators coming up at noon today. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on this Monday morning. Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment on this Monday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Again, we are shortened today. Preds pregame coming up right after us at 11 o'clock. Preds starting their 4-game Canadian road trip, taking on the Ottawa Senators on Canadian Thanksgiving. We're talking some Preds, talking some Titans, wrapping up the show here. Did want to point out the SEC preseason polls have just been released for both men's and women's basketball. On the men's side, Tennessee picked third behind only Florida and Kentucky. Vanderbilt 11th. And, Mark Byington turned over a lot of that team, only bringing back 3 of the key contributors from last year with Tyler Nickel, Tyler Tanner, and Devin McLaughlin. So they're picked 11th. Tennessee picked third. On the women's side, Tennessee picked 4th. Vanderbilt picked 7th. And Michaela Blake's first team All-SEC in the preseason, as is well-deserved for Michaela. We'll talk plenty of Vanderbilt women's basketball during the season because, again, I do broadcast their games, but just want to put it out there. If anybody out there hasn't come out and seen Vandy play and seen Michaela Blake's play, you're missing out. So come out. First home game November 10th against Furman, and plenty of opportunities throughout the fall, winter, and into the spring. Let's talk some Preds here. Preds, again, starting this 4-game Canadian road trip, and early returns pretty good. You're able to win a grinded out game on Thursday night against Columbus 2-1, against Utah on Saturday. You lose in overtime, but you still pick up that point. And now you go on the road here. 4 teams in Canada over 6 days. And Justin from Greenbrier says, I'm hoping for a sweep in Canada, but that's probably shooting too high. Yeah, I think a sweep would be a lot. But if you could get, let's say, 5 points out of the 8 possible, that puts you in a really good spot coming back home, and you don't have to leave home for a while after that. You got these 4 straight road games, but then 5 straight at home from the 21st through the 28th. You don't leave again until the day before Thanksgiving when you play the Philadelphia Flyers. So opportunities for this team early on to put themselves in a good position, and this is a big trip coming up. And I'm loving the day hockey on Canadian Thanksgiving. I may, when I get home, just settle in and watch some hockey today. Justin also asks, how likely do you think that it is that the Preds send Brady Martin back to juniors? And before we talked to Max last week, I was thinking in my head, he's been the top line center. Why would they send him back, especially if he looks like he belongs? And he did pick up his first NHL point on Saturday, an assist to Phil Forsberg. But based on the conversation with Max, it seems like they are going to send him back after the 9 games he's allowed, especially with Matthew Wood and now Luke Evangelista is back with the team. I think that's probably their thought process is, we'll move Ryan O'Reilly back to center. We can put one of those young guys on the wing opposite Forsberg, and they'll be okay. But, I'm not 100% convinced that they won't keep Brady Martin, but based on what Max was saying, that seems like the plan is they're going to give him the 9 games, send him back to juniors, and then you would hope that he is a full-time member of the team starting in 2026.
How would you assess how he's looked so far in 2 games?
I mean, nothing spectacular, right? But, has it been bad? No. I don't think he looks lost out there, but I also don't know if it's to the point where you have to keep him on the roster right now. And we'll see. He's got another 7 games to force their hand, right? That's Brady Martin's job right now, is to go force Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett's hands and say hey, I am too good to be sent back to the Sioux. And if he does that, that would be great for the Preds. That would mean that they have an up-and-coming star that they're working with. But odds are it's just going to be fine from Brady Martin. He is still only 18 years old, and I'm excited to watch him play today. And we'll see. I haven't seen anything about what the lineup's looking like for the Preds yet, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Again, it's a back-to-back. If I had to guess, I would guess it's going to be Ananen who gets the start in net today, especially with Saros starting the first 2. And then you'll see UC against Toronto tomorrow. But who knows? We'll find out. And again, Preds pregame right after us in about 10 minutes. So don't go anywhere. We got some day hockey for you. Quickly back to the Titans. We had some texts I wanted to get to about Brian Callahan. And Wes in Clarksville asks, who will the interim be if they let Brian Callahan go? Would they be long-term? Or will that make 3 head coaches for Cam? And we've had this conversation a couple times of, would they go outside and try and bring in a Mike McCarthy or something like that? And it just feels like the logistics wouldn't work with that of, hey, you have to hire him as the interim, but he's not going to come as the interim unless you promise him that he's the full-time head coach and the Rooney Rule and all that stuff. So I don't think it would be an interim coach, likely Mike McCoy, who's an offensive analyst right now, or Bones Fossil. Those are the 2 guys with head coaching experience that aren't Bill Callahan, because obviously you're not going to have Brian's dad step in as the interim head coach. But I'd say Bones Fossil, Mike McCoy, those are the 2 obvious answers.
I can't think of anybody else. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable promoting Denard Wilson because defense has a lot of holes.
And it's like you're making his job harder.
Yeah, like, way harder than it has to be because he's never done it before. At least Mike McCoy has.
Right.
And Bones Fossil has.
And Mike McCoy doesn't have any pressing game day responsibilities that this would pull him away from. Bones Fossil has done it before as the interim head coach. I'm sure that he could be the interim and be the special teams coach at the same time. So those are the options you'd be looking at. WB in Thompson Station says, if you're focusing on the coaching staff without talking about Amy's awful leadership, you're missing the big picture. I think everybody realizes that this all starts with the owner, right? But guess what? That's not something you can change. I mean, I don't want to talk about Amy because it's like there's nothing that's going to change there. She has to do a better job of hiring the right people and putting them in positions to succeed. And because it's not like you can fire the owner. They're not selling the team. So, we can talk about it all you want, but nothing's going to change with Amy. I mean, the only thing you could see is if she wanted to give Kenneth to be the controlling owner, but I don't see that happening.
Which I would be in favor for. I wouldn't be opposed.
I mean, I don't really know enough about it, but obviously the last 4 years have not been good. And a lot of that starts with the ownership and the decisions that they've made with the general manager and the head coach. And, you got to be better in that spot because I don't see anything changing with the ownership. So she's got to find a way to find the right people and see if they can turn this thing around. Right now, it doesn't look good. It did not look good yesterday, 20-10. Pretty much everybody can be blamed, and you wonder when a move might be made, especially with Mike Vrabel coming to town this weekend. We'll have plenty more previewing Mike Vrabel's return to Nashville throughout the week here on Next Man Up. Also, we barely touched on college football. Tennessee escaping what was an interesting game, to say the least, with Arkansas, but getting a win. And they look ahead to Alabama this weekend. Vanderbilt welcoming in LSU this weekend. So plenty to get to on that. I know Nick Frazier's back there right now. So, Nick, I said it earlier, I might be ready to catch the strep. And
he's ready for Tony Tuesdays.
And we will,
he's fired up.
We will talk some Xavier Restrepo tomorrow because what we've seen from Tyler Lockett has just been borderline unplayable.
Who started Catch the Strap?
That might have been, was that Nick Frazier?
Oh, that was Frazier?
Was it? Wow. Okay. Got to give credit to Dr. Crane where it's due. So
hey, I'll catch the strap.
Lots coming up on the program this week. And of course, more Preds talk as the Preds start their 4-game Canadian road trip in just about an hour. They've got Ottawa today. They've got Toronto tomorrow, then Montreal on Thursday, Winnipeg on Saturday. Big chance early on in the season to start collecting some points. Preds pregame is coming up next. Should be a fun one. Preds 1-0-1 on the season. It's Canadian Thanksgiving Day hockey. Don't go anywhere as we've got plenty of great action coming up for you. Pre-game from 11 to noon. Then Max Hers, along with Hal Gill, will call the game starting at noon. That does it for us. Preds pregame coming up next. Keep it right here on 102.5 The Game.